You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Well, India has strongly rejected Pakistan's repeated references to Jammu and Kashmir at a United Nations debate on peacekeeping reforms, calling them unwarranted. With reciprocal tariffs just days away, a team of US officials will be visiting India from today to take forward the ongoing trade discussions, including the scope of the bilateral trade agreement that both sides aim to finalize in the next few months. US officials are reacting with shock and in many cases horror to revelations in the Atlantic that top members of Trump's cabinet sent detailed operational plans and other highly classified information about US military strikes on Yemen to a group thread on a messaging app to which a reporter had accidentally been added. Russia downplayed the possibility of swift progress in Ukraine ceasefire talks with US officials on Monday. A Kremlin spokesperson spoke of difficult negotiations during the 12-hour meeting in Saudi Arabia. The co-founder of Rippling, Prasanna Sankar, he runs a $10 billion workforce management company, and he has leveled explosive allegations against his wife that have now gone viral on social media. Chinese electrical vehicle giant BYD surpassed $100 billion in sales for the first time last year, cementing its dominance in the world's largest car market and beating US rival Tesla. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is in the UK with an objective to court investment for her state. Known for her tireless energy, she was seen jogging through London's Hyde Park in a sari and her signature slippers, setting a brisk pace for her entourage. A big focus. India has strongly rejected Pakistan's repeated references to Jammu and Kashmir at a United Nations debate on peacekeeping reforms, calling them unwarranted and reaffirming that the region was, is, and will always be an integral part of India. Speaking at the Security Council, India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador P. Harish, condemned Pakistan for attempting to divert attention from the core discussions on peacekeeping. He stated, India is compelled to note that the delegate of Pakistan has yet again resorted to unwarranted remarks on the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Listen in to his detailed remarks.
India is compelled to note that the delegate of Pakistan has yet again resorted to unwarranted remarks on the Indian Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Such repeated references neither validate their illegal claims nor justify their state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. Jammu and Kashmir was, is, and will always be an integral part of India. Pakistan continues to illegally occupy the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which it must vacate. We would advise Pakistan not to try to divert the attention of this forum to drive their parochial and divisive agenda. India will refrain from exercising a more elaborate right of reply.
With that, let's turn our attention to the United States, where officials are reacting with shock and in many cases horror to revelations in the Atlantic that top members of Donald Trump's cabinet sent detailed operational plans and other likely highly classified information about US military strikes on Yemen to a group thread on a messaging app to which a reporter had accidentally been added. According to The Atlantic, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz earlier this month convened a text conversation with top US officials. This includes the Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio to discuss strikes on Houthi militants in Yemen who had been threatening international shipping in the Red Sea. Mr. Waltz apparently accidentally added Atlantic Editor-in-Chief Jeffrey Goldberg to the chain. Now, the Trump administration has acknowledged the messages sent over the non-government encrypted chat app Signal seem to be authentic without offering any explanation for why senior officials were discussing national defense information outside of approved classified government systems. But just listen in to what the US president said on the leaked military strikes plans over texts.
President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top cabinet officials and aides had been discussing very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
Well, in other news, a United States delegation met with Kremlin negotiators in Saudi Arabia on Monday, where the Trump administration is pushing for progress towards a ceasefire in separate talks with Russia and Ukraine, just as Russian strikes injured scores of people in Ukraine, including children. A Russian missile strike on the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy on Monday wounded 65 people. This included 14 children. And this as talks between Russian and US officials concluded late on Monday evening after more than 12 hours, as per Russian media. Well, for further clarity, we have with us Dr. Richard Benkin joining us live from Chicago at the moment. Dr. Benkin, as we speak, do you agree that a wide gulf in expectations exists between Russia, Ukraine, and their US interlocutors? Are you actually optimistic about any breakthroughs in Saudi Arabia?
First of all, thank you for having me on. Actually, I think what we're seeing is certainly this is more difficult than first anticipated by the president during his campaign. However, we're so much farther along than we ever had been, or we've even been expected to be at this point. What's going to happen? You know, it's impossible to say. However, I think we can be optimistic. I think it's a matter of just finding that right combination that's going to force both Mr. Putin and Mr. Zelensky to sign the document. However, I think we also need to recognize that there are three incredible geopolitical dynamics going on right now. First, one of the most troubling developments over the last several years has been the strengthening of what we can call the axis of authoritarianism, arrayed against freedom and democracy. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And here we're seeing the first real cracks in that alliance, and that the implications of that are enormous. You know, Russia, I think, is beginning to see that there are benefits in having good relations with the United States rather than standing against the United States. And look, with the two largest nuclear powers talking, I think everyone in the world can sleep a little more easily. Secondly, we're seeing a reorientation of U.S. foreign policy, whereby the United States is no longer going to pick up the tab for Europe's defense and perhaps orienting itself more towards Asia, and in particular India, rather than Europe. And third, look at the role of Saudi Arabia. Not long ago, Saudi Arabia was considered something of a pariah after the murder of the Washington Post journalist. And in fact, former President Biden was unbridled in his comments to that respect. And here, Saudi Arabia is hosting a conference that might bring an end to the biggest war in Europe since World War II. And finally, not only will that help Saudi Arabia thrive for the rest of this century and beyond, but I think we can see it as a prelude to Saudi Arabia ultimately becoming part of President Trump's Abraham Accords, which is an absolute game changer for the Middle East.
The ceasefire will not be possible unless Kyiv actually agrees not to use it to resupply or reorganize its troops. So that maybe is a maybe bold and highlighted. In fact, many are questioning whether this is really a fair deal for Ukraine then, or a deal at all. But Dr. Benkin, we'll of course revert to you for regular updates. Thanks so much for joining us. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has said that he will impose tariffs of 25% on any nation that purchases oil from Venezuela. Trump claimed, without evidence, Venezuela has purposefully and deceitfully sent criminals, including violent individuals and members of gangs, to the United States. But by the way, in India, we can expect more oil coming from Venezuela. Our Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, at a press conference on the sidelines of India Energy Week, had clearly said that India can expect more oil coming from Venezuela. He added, our public and private companies have had business relationships with Venezuela, but there were some payment issues. However, Mr. Puri said he is looking at it with great optimism. Well, this as a US team led by Assistant Trade Representative Brendan Lynch will be in New Delhi for trade discussions with Indian counterparts. a little more than a week before President Donald Trump's April 2nd deadline for imposing reciprocal tariffs kicks in. Meanwhile, ahead of this April 2nd deadline, the government proposed to remove the 6% equalization levy EL through an amendment in the Finance Bill 2025, which is one of the demands of the US. Trump's threat of imposing reciprocal tariffs from next month have given rise to fears of an escalating trade war around the world, as we've been covering extensively, including in India. Ghazali joins you with the details.
With a little more than a week to go before US starts implementing the reciprocal tariff on April 2nd, US trade representative who looks after the region of India and South and Central Asia will be visiting India from 25th to 29th April for a 5-day trip in which it is expected that this official, along with a high-level delegation, will also be meeting our Trade and Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, and other business representatives. Now, why this is very significant? Because US has been talking about implementing reciprocal tariff, and regarding this, just earlier this month, Piyush Goyal, the Trade and Commerce Minister, was in the United States. He met his counterparts there. Prime Minister Modi and President Trump met last month in US when it was expected that these issues must have come up in discussion. Now, India is very tight-lipped when it comes to the issue of lowering the tariff, because it doesn't want to send out a message that under US pressure, it is lowering the tariff for its products. But what official sources have confirmed, like with many other countries, India has reduced the tariff. So it is likely to reduce the tariff for US as well. But more clarity will come after these 5 days when this Assistant Trade Representative of US, Mr. Brendan Lynch, who is coming to India, will be meeting the top officials here in India. And then perhaps a blueprint will be out that how India and US are going to go forward on this reciprocal tariff issue. Now, experts here claim that perhaps giving more leeway or kind of reducing tariff for US goods or giving it to US or lowering tariff for US will allow China also to get into our domestic markets, which is a big risk for our local consumers and producers. So we'll have to see that how India and US, though both claim in their statements that US values India as a trade partner, as a valuable trade partner, they're also looking for a bilateral trade agreement. But it will have to be seen that how these two issues will be sorted between the two countries as far as reciprocal tariff is concerned.
Well, switching tracks, Prasanna Sankar, the co-founder of Rippling, which is a $10 billion workforce management company, has leveled explosive allegations against his wife, Divya Sashidhar, that have gone viral on social media. Sankar claims that Divya falsely accused him of rape and domestic violence as part of a bitter divorce and custody battle over their son. He alleges that their marriage fell apart after he discovered her 6-month-old extramarital affair with a man named Anoop. His wife has called him a sexual predator. In fact, Sam has been tracking the finer details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Sam, break down these explosive allegations for us.
Well, that could be a personal affair which the couple has to sort it out as they apply for divorce. But at the moment, the wife, Divya Sashidhar, has approached the Chennai police alleging her husband, Prasanna's secretary, has taken away their 9-year-old American son and his whereabouts not known. But he alleges that the wife tried to take him away to the US and now the little boy is with him outside Tamil Nadu, and that she's using the police to harass his secretary, Gokul. Both are fighting divorce separately and they are making wild allegations against each other. But the Chennai police has moved this case from the regular police to the wing that takes care of women and child safety, because Prasanna alleges that an assistant commissioner of police and a sub-inspector demanded 25 lakh bribe. So in this context, it's becoming viral on social media, and many are also worried about the plight of the 9-year-old boy, an American citizen who was studying till recently in the US. Parmeshwar.
Sam, as always, thanks so much for joining us with these details. We'll, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Slipping into a quick break for now. Back in a moment. Do stay tuned. To Turkey now, where police have arrested more than 1,100 people who have taken part in demonstrations after the Istanbul mayor's March 19th arrest. The protests have been described as the country's most significant since the Gezi Park protests of 2013. In other news, Samsung Electronics co-chief executive officer Han Jung-hee died of cardiac arrest on Tuesday. In fact, He was 63 years old and he died at a hospital while being treated for cardiac arrest. The company is yet to name a successor. Well, in other news, Chinese electric vehicle giant BYD surpassed $100 billion in sales for the first time last year, cementing its dominance in the world's largest car market and beating US rival Tesla. This year alone, BYD has actually unveiled a new ecosystem that allows EVs to charge for 400 kilometers in just 5 minutes and introduced advanced driver assistance technology in even its most basic models. In fact, the other big story we're tracking, soon it will no longer be Indian origin astronaut, but it will actually be an Indian astronaut designate who will be heading to the International Space Station. Regarding this ISRO Axiom 4 mission, Pallav Bagla spoke to the NASA chairman, Dr. V. Narayanan. Listen in to what he had to tell us about how the mission is progressing.
I have with me Dr. V. Narayanan, the chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization. Dr. Narayanan, thanks a lot. How is the mission for Axiom 4, where Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla is likely to go into space?
This will bring a lot of expertise, knowledge, advantage, working with the other astronauts, carrying out a couple of experiments. This will bring a lot of advantage. That is why Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji approved that entire program. And right now, the training part is going on in NASA. And then, of course, we are going to send one of the astronaut to, rather Gaganyaan 3, to ISS, International Space Station, with the support of course, whatever you told, the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
As ISRO chairman, are you happy with the performance of Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, and will he make a good astronaut to the International Space Station? He has to learn many things which will come handy in Gaganyaan.
No, I am extremely happy. You know, our ISRO is a teamwork, and our Gaganyaan 3, I will put, he is doing extremely well. That is what is my understanding. And these are all exceptional people with great devotion and single-minded devotion they are having. And he is doing extraordinarily well.
Meanwhile, Pope Francis returned to the Vatican on Sunday after surviving a 5-week battle in hospital against double pneumonia that became the most serious health crisis of his 12-year papacy. The 88-year-old Pope also made his first public appearance since the 14th of February from his hospital in Rome. Now, the crucial news, Egypt has floated a new proposal aimed at restoring the Gaza ceasefire deal, as per a Reuters report. This, as Palestinian health authorities said, Israeli strikes had killed at least 65 people in the enclave in the previous 24 hours. The proposal made last week follows an escalation in violence after Israel resumed air and ground operations against Hamas on the 18th of March, which ended a 2-month period of relative calm after 15 months of war. Thank you so much for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.